The sweaty, gleaming shaft might be back. Previously, I talked about how the original heat shield concept for Starship was called transpirational cooling. In other words, it would sweat cryogenic methane fuel to cool its outer skin, which would be perforated with pores. So Starship could be a sweaty, gleaming shaft penetrating the warmth of the atmosphere over and over again. I don't know exactly why this was never tried, but reportedly it's come back into consideration. That's not too surprising that this novel kind of heat shield is being reconsidered at a fundamental level. Elon is famous for saying that the best part is no part at all, so thousands of separate heat shield tiles seem like a solution that would in fact be called into question. There are several reasons. One is that keeping the heat shield intact around the maneuvering fins looks like an as yet unsolved problem. The very large number of tiles and the seemingly inevitable damage to some of them on every flight makes fast turnaround harder to achieve. And if you've been following developments of the heat shield, you might recall that an additional layer of thermal protection had to be added under the tiles as a backup for places where the tiles fail during re-entry. All that adds more weight than originally planned for. Reusable rocketry fundamentally trades weight for reuse. It takes fuel to land a rocket back on Earth, it takes fuel to maneuver to get out of orbit, and it takes fuel to land. Fuel is heavy. That's why some payloads on Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy require expending the booster stage, because those payloads require all or nearly all the fuel on board, leaving none for landing the Falcon 9 booster. Because the first stage of Falcon 9 and Starship don't get all the way into low Earth orbit, bringing them back intact doesn't require a heat shield. They simply don't get going that fast or that high as to need much protection from air friction on their way to land. But Starship has a reusable second stage, or at least it's intended to be reused. Really more like required, because if it can't be reused, the whole Starship concept starts to look dubious. Returning from orbit is much harder because being in orbit requires that you're moving fast enough not to fall back into the atmosphere. So to return, you need some fuel to slow down so that you do in fact fall back into the atmosphere, and you're going to encounter a lot more air friction on your way to the ground. And then you need still more fuel to make a soft landing on the chopsticks. Now the idea is to use another increment of fuel for cooling a heat shield. That needs to add up to less weight than the heat shield tiles, or you're losing still more payload. And that goes to my prediction that 2025 will be the year of payload.